Hey everybody, happy July 7th. It's a wonderful, beautiful Monday here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's back to the grind, right? I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July weekend with friends and family. I wanted to put together this video in response to a comment that a good friend of mine, Corey, made on this group on a post I made about a week ago or so. I had commented on this interaction that I found on social media between a bicyclist and a motorist who had pulled up beside her and was just calling her names and cussing her out and telling her she's being dangerous and all that. And my comment in that situation was that this bicyclist coulda, shoulda, woulda just let it go, because as this guy is leaving, he's driving away. She had started to interact with him in the first place, tried to defend herself, and as he's driving away, instead of just letting it go, she had to have the last word. And so she calls out to him, calls him an MFer, right? So what does he do? He locks up the brakes, peels backwards, and they get into it again. And that's an escalation of this situation that could have been over. But Corey made a comment that brings up a whole nother rabbit hole. But she said, she pointed out that she had an uncle or a family member that had this way of being rather heavy-handed, even though he meant well and is just very concerned about kids' safety. And the truth is, I've been there where I've used a very, very harsh tone of voice with someone who's a victim in an accident. However, this highlights a point I strongly emphasize in all my training seminars and all that. Your tone of voice, if you're not careful, can actually escalate situations, even though you don't mean to. Now, in this case, let's take the perspective of this motorist. He's driving up this road and he sees this bicyclist, and he's so concerned about her safety and all that, he gets really bent out of shape, and he only means to just let her be aware of her safety. But if you watch that video, man, he is loud, rude, obnoxious. Now, how are you ever going to actually get someone to actually listen to you when you're talking to them in that way? When you talk to people, don't keep in mind three things. Don't talk down to them as if they're a child. Don't talk to them as if they're stupid. And sure as heck, don't talk to them as if they're supposed to be afraid of you. And when you listen to all to this, the way this motorist is talking to this bicyclist, there's nothing about his tone of voice, his behavior and attitude, even if he means well, that's coming across in such a manner that even you, if you were that bicyclist or in a similar situation, that you would take to kindly. None of us take kindly to having someone be loud, rude, obnoxious to us, especially if we're not aware that we're doing anything wrong in the first place. I'm going to share a little personal story of how I was using a harsh tone of voice with an accident victim. Okay, I actually have a video of it downstairs. It's actually rather embarrassing, but there's a reason why I did it, and it was brought. All right, Corey's comment on my post last week just reminded me of this incident, because it's very true. I get it. It's absolutely possible that someone meaning well could end up using a harsher tone of voice than necessary and potentially escalate a situation. Okay. Many years ago, in the middle of the night, I was partnered up with a buddy of mine. We're driving down one of the main strips in Grand Rapids. We've got the flashing yellow light. There's another car ahead of us about 500 meters. And as it enters that intersection, I see out of the corner of my eye a car blasting southbound. And I'm telling myself, you know what, that car is not going to stop for the flashing red light that it has. And sure enough, right there in front of me, it goes through the intersection and just T-bones that car in front of me. Bam. It's like watching a movie take place in front of me. Just debris and all this stuff, and the other car spinning around. It was like I say, it's like watching a movie. Immediately activated my video, which, because now it captures the last 30 seconds leading up to that point that I activate my video, so it captures the whole thing. I run up there with my partner. We get out. We start looking and checking for injuries and all that. The lady who got T-boned, young lady, attractive young college girl, is crying. She's upset, and she starts getting out of the vehicle. And I'm I'm telling her to just sit down. I just need her to sit down because I don't want to aggravate any potential internal injuries. And she won't listen to me because she's upset. So now I start raising my voice. Now, this is a scientifically proven thing where sometimes when people are shell shocked or in the moment, you've really got to raise your voice to kind of get through that fog and get their attention. Well, I'm now really raising my voice. I'm really demanding for her to sit down. When you go back and listen to that, watch that video of me doing this, it's actually rather embarrassing for me because I'm really speaking very harshly to this young lady who just got T-boned. Of course she's upset, right? She finally sits down and everything's honky dory. The other driver I ended up arresting for drunk driving and all that. But I want to give you the backstory as to why I was acting that way. Many years before, I handled a bad accident, and when I got there, the lady was out walking around. She was coherent, she was lucid, she was talking and joking, and just saying that thankfully she was wearing her seatbelt, and everything was fine, right? She signed a AMA. She didn't want to go with the ambulance. Okay, no problem. A day or so later, my sergeant reaches out to me and says, "Hey, John, you remember that accident with that lady walked around up there? She kind of veered off the road, plowed into a telephone pole. I think it ended up being some type of medical issue." I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, well, she died." I was like, "Why? What happened?" Well, apparently she had suffered some internal injuries. And by her getting up and walking around and so on, she just kind of potentially have aggravated these internal injuries that she had actually suffered. And by not going to the hospital when she should have, it could have potentially have saved her life. So obviously that stuck with me. So years later, with any accident. As a matter of fact, let me just down this other rabbit hole. Let me share with you. I don't care how minor a fender bender it is. If you get jostled around in your car, please go have yourself checked out. Okay, you have no idea the forces exerted on your body, even if you're wearing a seatbelt, that could potentially aggravate something else that you weren't even aware that you had. So anyway, when I come up on this accident, I just observed this T-bone and I run up there and this girl's crawling out. I do not want her to aggravate any type of situation that she may have. And so I'm forcefully trying to use or trying to get through that fog in her head and try to get her attention. I just want her to stop moving and sit down. Okay. And so there you go. However, but back to Corey's point, you're absolutely right. And that is why whenever you suddenly have someone loud, rude, obnoxious with you, take a moment before you act very defensively at someone being loud with you. Do they mean well and just don't really appreciate how they're coming across? Or are they really some knucklehead being loud, rude, and obnoxious? But it takes you to take a moment to just slow down and really assess the situation. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. Slow down, take a breath, assess the situation. Is this person really trying to get underneath your nerves or be a bully and be loud, rude, and obnoxious? Or do they not really appreciate and are aware of how they're coming across and they actually mean well and they're just trying to look out for your safety? Anyway, thank you, Corey, for making a comment on my last post and kind of bringing up this stuff. And the rest of you, again, be very careful about your tone of voice. You may mean well, but you coming across like you're talking to someone like they're a child or they're stupid or should be afraid of you, you're actually going to inadvertently escalate that situation because you saw how that bicyclist handled that motorist. Slow down, take a deep breath, assess the situation, and go get checked out. I don't care how well you feel that you are after a minor fender bender, okay? All right, see ya.